All right. Welcome to the final hour with Travis. I'm your guest host, Peter, aka the Prophet of Fiction. I am an author and a teacher, so hosting a show is new territory for me to help ensure that I waste no one's time. I prepared a script and some point-form notes. This evening, I'll weave my ideas around the subject of free energy and free matter, and I'll attempt to apply these concepts to our past, present, and future. Call me ambitious. Anyway, I believe I have some surprising ideas to share. Let's dive right in. Part 1, what is free energy? Free energy typically presupposes or means the concept of ether, which is simply an electrically charged atmosphere whose electricity can be harvested with simple technologies. But let's leave that idea on the back burner for a moment and explore the possibility that all living things harvest free electricity from the ether with their bodies, humans included. I've often wondered about how nature works. It just looks too magical. Hummingbirds around here. How are they powered? Is it just by nibbling on tiny bits of nectar? Really? They have all that power just from nectar? It's hard to imagine. Plus, assume that they need that nectar for maintaining their physical bodies too. Are they getting power plus matter, energy plus matter from nectar? Hard to imagine. Trees are moving sticky sap from deep roots all the way to the leafy tops, the canopies. Really, is that through transpiration, simply the sun sucking sap from the bottom to the top? Yeah, hard to buy that. Some other energy is at work. Human heart, is that really a pump? Pumping through vessels that could wrap around the planet, they say. Lots of those vessels fan out from the heart through arteries and finally empty, I assume, into cells and tissues. So there isn't a direct line. There's no direct circle for this heart to pump through. Blood has to collect back into veins. So some other energy is at work. Yeah, science is also a lie, not only history and politics. I have a little theory that the greater the surface area over mass, the more energy we absorb from this ether. Ants have enormous amount of surface area compared to their mass. Most insects do. Beetles, a little less. They're quite circular, so they're less powerful, less active. Could we all be absorbing free energy through our bodies? I mean, not oxygen entering through our lungs and being somehow magically transformed into electricity through digestion and carbohydrates. All very complicated. Makes us sound a little bit like internal combustion engines. We need food. Got to burn food. What if the food is just physical maintenance material, matter? The energy really just comes through our lungs. Insects don't have lungs. And we've increased our surface area with lungs and the enormous amount of, I'm not sure what those structures are called inside our lungs, but it's designed to absorb more oxygen, they say. I say more electricity. And it seems like the larger animals get, the lower their surface area to mass becomes. So creatures like elephants, not so active, not even so strong, actually, for their size. So there we have some speculations, I think, might be of interest. What about mass? Just touched on energy. What about mass? Well, free mass. Once upon a time, earth or land was free. And land produces our food. And scientists tell us that food is the source of our energy. Well, as I said, what if food is merely building and maintenance material, not calories? What if food isn't fuel and we aren't internal combustion biomachines? Think about the word calories. Calor is Spanish for heat. We equate heat with energy. But heat isn't energy, not for humans. We are powered electrically. We are electric beings. We might even be absorbing low levels of electricity through our hair follicles. Remember Samson, that curious story? Samson lost his strength after Delilah shaved his head. He lost his energy. What if our entire bodies are antennas absorbing free electricity? Really, maybe we are like fish. Don't know they swim in water. Science also claims we can burn fat for energy. Fat isn't carbohydrates, so another formula is created. Somehow, oxygen is still needed. And everything becomes very complicated. That's how they keep us ignorant and dazzled and bowing to the experts. Now we should ask, if we are constantly absorbing electricity, it must also leave us. We can't just keep absorbing it. How does it leave us? Yeah, I don't know all the answers. Maybe electricity transforms matter, elements into new elements, and so on. Maybe it's stored in matter, as matter. So whenever we empty ourselves, you know what I mean? Maybe our excrement is full of potential energy, which might explain why manure gives plants energy packaged in matter plants can access. And just, we have to rewrite everything, don't we? History and science. Life isn't very complicated. The energy our bodies need is still free, but the matter we need to live is no longer free. Water was once free, now it isn't. Water, of course, is highly electrically conductive. That's why it's so important. Food comes from the land. Land was once free, now it isn't. I believe our ancestors depended mostly on trees for their food. And tree-based foods require the least human energy to harvest or grow. That's the attraction. Very comfortable to live in treed environments. So I think we should forget the lies that our ancestors were all hunters. Hunting is quite energy intensive. Imagine hunting deer during a Canadian winter, soft knee-deep snow. It's insane. Even if you could sew together some nice fur clothes, I don't think it's a choice people somehow made voluntarily. I question the entire history of native life, too. I just can't imagine people marching north and choosing to live in winter climates and chasing deer through snow. Not when they can live south and just harvest tree-based foods, nuts and fruit. So it's managing forests. Well, we do have evidence that even the east coast of the U.S. was, eastern half of the U.S. was covered in oak, chestnut trees, even throughout California, the west coast. I live here in Oaxaca, southern Mexico. Most of it is desert and semi-desert, but I live in this lovely valley. And once upon a time, it was all treed, not so much now. Once upon a time, it was all forest. The bastards left one old tree standing, perhaps the bastards of the past. I think it's the world's largest trunk now. The name slips my mind. Yes, they cut down every other tree. Well, that world of tree-based living is mostly gone. That was mostly free food and easy living. Now we are civilized. Now nothing is free. Okay. Part 2, civilization, unfreedom, and the slaughterhouse economy. I believe civilization started slowly as humans moved north into difficult climates and ecosystems that could not produce sufficient plant-based food year-round, nor provide enough warm weather to live in without clothes. It's forced us to adapt. We became carnivores. We hunted to provide our food, especially in the winters. We needed hunting tools. We needed fire to keep us warm in winter. We needed better shelters that hold heat. We needed clothes. All these needs triggered the technological revolution, which is the beginning of civilization. Hunting changes everything. Hunting with spears or projectiles of any kind is quite energy intensive, more so than raising livestock on fenced pasture. But animal farming, even more than hunting, changes our relationship to nature and life. Suddenly, we are no longer sharing ecosystems with other animals. Instead, we are exploiting other animals for our survival and benefit. We don't kill trees by eating their fruit. We kill animals by eating them. Hunting has serious consequences for human culture, human families, human minds. To believe otherwise seems to me a little naive. How can a culture founded on peacefully gardening not produce different humans than a culture founded on calculated slaughter of animals? Of course, while most of the slaughtering is done by a minority of, talking about the present day now, by a minority of slaughterhouse workers, people aren't affected by it because they don't see it. But I think the culture of cruel exploitation of others has permeated all sectors of society. We've all become hunters now, job hunters, head hunters, partner hunters, sex hunters, whatever. Yeah, our culture seems now founded on the slaughterhouse mentality, doctors and nurse and hunting mentality. Doctors and nurses don't question their profession because they don't see the results, or they don't imagine there's any connection between their profession and the fact that disease rates are increasing, the fact that their medicinal industry is failing to provide cures for any disease. So far as I know, the word cure is not part of their vocabulary. Teachers and professors are hunters in their own right. They don't care if students graduate into a global economy that has no jobs for them, only underpaid jobs, or terrible, dangerous, and immoral jobs. No, their job is to earn money. They hunt money. They're not so concerned about the results. Politicians don't care if they raise taxes during recessions, pass ridiculous laws, enforce dangerous mandates, and generally fail to improve people's lives. They're in it for the money, for themselves. Farmers don't care that they spray poisons on the foods we eat. They don't want to study the results. Restaurant workers don't care and don't know they serve toxic foods to their customers. They just want their paychecks. Car manufacturers don't care that 1.1 million people die in collisions every year. Cars, it's progress, after all. And, well, bankers, yeah. Do we need to say anything about bankers? Wherever I look, I see the slaughterhouse economy, hunting mindset. Part 3. How did the aristocrats conquer the native peoples of the world? And by native peoples, I do mean people who depended on trees for their food, for their matter. Did they wage war against native peoples, forest peoples around the world? Europe, of course, was first to fall. Well, I've had to abandon my belief in conventional war. It's all fiction now. Just try to imagine European aristocrats dressing in armor, carrying heavy swords, and marching through forested land to conquer native peoples. Ridiculous. Armor is too heavy and noisy, and native people, they would melt into the forests, find food wherever they went, because they were managing the forest. Someone should try to reenact how European conquistadors supposedly conquered the Americas. I think it wouldn't work. Not with armor, not with swords. And, well, if you did succeed at conquering people with violence, you would not have a willing labor force, slaves. I don't think so. There is a much easier way to conquer native peoples that hasn't been explored by anyone else, I think. I think it's very simple. You simply destroy their forests, their food source. By destroying the food source of native peoples, you easily defeat them, make them helpless, chop down their forests. That forces them to become dependent on the food you can provide them. Yeah, if that's what you want, or you leave them to starve. And this would actually be exactly what the conquerors wanted. They didn't have much use for trees except to build ships and who knows what else. And They were happy to replace forests with grassland, pasture. All those signs of civilization. Pasture especially, they love their meat. They are huge carnivores. Aristocrats were and are, I think they are still among us. So, food is the secret, of course it is. And we are still being conquered by food, not by lack of it, but by toxic foods and the wrong foods. Between food and medicine, we are kept weak, sick, dying of diseases. You know, I'm hearing a lot of talk about wars, the awful wars. But even if wars are real, their death toll doesn't hold a candle to the death toll of the diseases caused by bad foods, medicine, beverages. I first bumped into the notion that perhaps wars are not real. I first studied the French Revolution. I've done a YouTube video on that. French Revolution. That's, if any war can make you excited, maybe that's the one. That one and the American Revolution. What awesome victories, the French Revolution, something on the order of 20,000 aristocrats were executed, beheaded. Really, do we buy that? Unprecedented and never been repeated. How would it be done? The aristocrats controlled everything, especially weapons. Military was theirs. I was to believe that farmers somehow marched on Paris, overpowered the ruling class, and lined up 20,000 of them for that wonderful device that was invented for the French Revolution. Big chopping machine. That's my mind. Not so important. It's all fiction. I've read through the accounts of it, looked at the paintings. So much fakery. It hasn't changed. We now fake with CGI and fake cities with empty buildings falling and being bombed. Yeah, in the past, they just painted pictures for us, wrote stories for us. Very easy. And people want to believe it, so they do. Part 4. The origin of our civilization. The human mind consumes an enormous proportion of our energy, mostly very inefficiently, without bearing good results. It has enormous unused potential to analyze, imagine, create things that we now rarely do. We outsource our imagination to entertainers, movies, video games, and consume other people's imagination. We listen to other analysts who analyze very poorly, mostly. Read the news. There's no analysis happening in news. Nothing complicated. No strings of causes and effects. No. And creation, who is creating anything? No, we're busy obeying orders, being afraid, hopeful. So our potential is mostly wasted, and I think that's, of course, that's a pity, but the aristocrats, the ruling class, they found a way to use some of that potential by developing new technologies and new strategies for controlling us. We're very busy imagining, creating, recognizing patterns in our behavior. So that's one way the human mind can use energy, be more active. A cabal of ambitious and predatory tribes in northwestern Europe developed, I believe, all our advanced technologies with which to extract energy and matter from nature, other humans included. Those predatory tribes became the aristocracy that conquered the world, and magically and mostly disappeared before the 20th century. Isn't that amazing? Those people were everywhere. They built their cathedrals, churches, palaces on every continent. And they built temples, I believe, also. It's the old, what do the Muslims call their temples? Mosques. It's amazing, amazing stonework on whatever continent you go, not counting Antarctica. You'll find amazing stonework. Megaliths included. I'm sure it's all the same people. And if that sounds ludicrous, that sounds preposterous, impossible, well, just look at the evidence of all the colonial cities around the world. More on that in a moment.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network. Real news, real talk, real people. Because you can handle the truth.
Are you really prepared? There's one critical piece most people forget. When disaster strikes, the most powerful survival tool isn't in your hands, it's in your head. But here's the hard truth. Knowledge disappears fast when the grid goes down. That's why we created the Preparedness Tablet, the first and only off-grid digital library designed specifically for survival situations. We've done the work for you. This rugged, portable tablet comes preloaded with a massive library of practical knowledge, food preservation and storage, emergency medical care, off-grid living and homesteading, security, defense, and more. It's indexed, searchable, organized, and powered by a free solar charger, so you'll never be without it. It also comes with a protective hard case, and you can upgrade it with supplemental survival files and EMP protection. Whether it's a power outage, social unrest, or a full-blown crisis, this tablet gives you instant access to skills that save lives. From treating wounds to growing food, even saving cherished family documents and photos. This preparedness tablet is your silent partner when things go sideways. You can't know it all, but you can carry it with you. Preloaded with survival knowledge, runs 100% off-grid, backup and store your own files, lightweight, portable, and solar-powered. Join thousands of Americans closing the last gap in emergency prep. Visit our website now and get peace of mind in the palm of your hand. The preparedness tablet also makes a thoughtful and potentially life-saving gift. Invest in yourself, protect your family. Visit www.comcoms.link. That's www.comcoms.link. Be ready, be smart, be the one who plans ahead. We also offer custom portable radios that come pre-configured for your local area. Included with these versatile radios is free basic training to get you up to speed quickly on how to use your radio. Visit our website today and learn all about our unique products. Comcoms.link. COMCOMS.link.
Tired of barely covering rent or utilities? What if you could add a real second income stream starting today? Hi, I'm John Moore, the Liberty Man. My friend Steve Ben Noon showed me LifeWave, and it changed everything for me. For just $295, grab the core membership and launch your own business. Perfect if you want to start small. Need more patches for the family or faster growth? Step up to advanced or go all in with premium for the biggest discounts on the famous X39 patches. Upgrade anytime, just pay the difference. It's that simple. I trusted Steve, I made the leap, and I've never looked back. Ready for your extra income? Visit thelibertyman.com right now, or call me personally at 314-965-3007. That's thelibertyman.com, or 314-965-3007. Don't wait. Your financial freedom starts with one click or one call.
Extendivite really works. Just listen to what some people have to say.
Several years ago, I was developing a very severe situation. I called it my flippy heart. It was doing not good things, and I did not want to go to a medical doctor because I just knew they would give me a cover-up pill. I didn't want to get onto that sort of thing at all. When I learned it was garlic and cayenne is a healer. It is a wonderful herb. I said, I think I'm onto something here. I'll tell you, I wouldn't be without it. It did wonderful things for me.
Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply of either capsules or liquid. Call now. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Libertarian Attack Publications was launched in 2018 with a focus on bringing the best freedom-focused books and fiction into fruition, all on the same catalog. The number of books is well over 30 now, but since then we've expanded beyond assisting freedom pioneers in sharing their story or educating themselves. Now we help self-liberators find their freedom. Also on offer via Libertarian Attack Publications are privacy tools, that is, privacy-enhanced laptops and phones, wellness items like the Pain Liberator, and occasionally special items like homemade organic canned goods, Oris Apothecary, and more. The website is libertyunderattack.com. Again, libertyunderattack.com. And as a thanks for your time, take 10% off your first order of books using coupon code SELFLIBERATE. Again, libertyunderattack.com. Coupon code SELFLIBERATE. Liberty Under Attack Publications. Share your story. Find your freedom.
back to the final hour with Travis. I'm still guest host, Prophet of Fiction. See if I can continue where I left off. I just mentioned how the aristocrats had mostly magically disappeared before the 20th century. And it was quite a feat, in my mind. Because I think too many people just assume or ignore the evidence of their population size. The imaginary killing of 20,000 aristocrats in France, even if true, wouldn't eliminate more than a small fraction of their number. I was saying how we have colonial cities throughout the Americas, mostly in the downtown cores of current cities. Many of them were destroyed. Many of the buildings were destroyed in so-called fires of the late 19th century, early 20th century. I think Chicago, Toronto, and San Francisco are some of the most famous fires. In some cases, more than one fire helped eliminate some of the evidence. I don't even believe they were fires. You can't burn stone buildings. Yes, they already had bombs, fire bombs, I suppose, or just bombs before they were used in the First World War. I mean, bombs to be dropped from the air. But back to the numbers. A good example would be in downtown Mexico City. The colonial buildings there alone could hold somewhere near 100,000. I don't think they were occupied by farmers, primarily aristocrats. And if they had slaves, they were elsewhere. I live near the capital of Oaxaca. It has a surprisingly large colonial downtown core, possibly large enough to hold some 50,000 aristocrats. And you look throughout North America at these cities and try to piece together where some of these downtown or colonial cities, as I call them, were destroyed. So there are remains. We can piece together how large they were. And in some cases, as in rural Mexico, colonial buildings peppering the country. So I believe there were millions, towards 10 million of them at least, around the world. Not only in the Americas. Europe arguably has the largest old world buildings, or the most of them, certainly the most advanced, in my view. Anyway, it's a large number. Where did they go? This is one of the mysteries that doesn't get addressed. I think they're still among us. Maybe they have secret islands. Who knows? They're probably in positions of power. They are political rulers and so on. But I digress a little. I wanted to get back to energy and technology. These people, the aristocrats, developed our technologies, their technologies, the tools with which to exploit nature for its free energy and free matter. They mastered mining, tunneling, stone cutting, mass hunting, another unexplored part of their history, mass fishing with large nets, possibly with airships, with stun grenades, cannons. The true purpose was to stun animals. They're powerful things. Large cannons. You can't be near them when they detonate. You'll be brain damaged. So, crazy to think they were used in wars, besides the fact that they're extremely inaccurate, cumbersome. I believe they were used hunting tools with which to rape the earth, or mostly before the Industrial Revolution, certainly before the 20th century. So many animal species went, large mammals, large birds went extinct in the 1800s. I don't think it was settlers, pioneers running around with shotguns that did that. This was a more advanced form of exploitation, called secret technologies, that helped deplete the giant herds of buffalo. Those plains that were occupied by buffalo have cities with old colonial buildings in their downtown cores, churches. I'm sorry to tell, Christians were originally slaughterhouses. I have a lot of evidence for that on my YouTube channel. Slaughterhouses for large mammals, mostly birds, and humans, alas. They were also raising humans. Yeah, everything was meat to them, everything but themselves. I've become quite familiar with some of the churches around here, and the statues on them and in them make a lot more sense when viewed from the perspective of cannibalism and carnivorism. Just one example. I don't know the name of the church. A couple of examples I'll share. Downtown Oaxaca. Little church with a doorway, and on one side is a man in a robe holding a plate, what looks like a dove. Now you can make excuses. Say, hey, that's the Holy Spirit. But no, the Holy Spirit does not belong on a plate. And I believe on the other side of the door is a man holding a jug of some sort. So perhaps with blood, who knows what was in that jug. But my point is that churches were places where food was prepared before they became churches. A larger church, cathedral really, on Independencia Avenue, has a door with a man in a robe holding a child on a strange square object. I can't call it a plate. It's strange, worrisome. On the other side is the man in a robe holding a sword. Well, that man is not a soldier. Soldiers don't in robes and carry swords. No. That was the butcher. Preparing food. I've yet to find other evidence where food was prepared, even cooked in these colonial cities. Churches. Yeah, isn't that ironic? People and animals came to die. Well, raped the earth for the Industrial Revolution before we even had a chance. And, they were slaves in their own way, slaves of their technology. I believe when their technologies evolved to such a degree that they saw other opportunities, and probably coincided with the time that the wild game, fish and birds included, were depleted around the planet. I think that's when they decided to have a reset, give us the Industrial Revolution with its crappy, dirty technologies. So that's where we are at present. Although it looks like we're into another reset. But let me spend some time on the Industrial Revolution or on the original, the time before that. What did the aristocrats have? What technologies that I haven't already mentioned? We've seen the amazing stonework produced by them much faster than I think I can imagine, suspect. Suspicions, of course, that before the Industrial Revolution, they already had things like lasers and computers. At the very least, they knew they had a very large magnifying glass arrays, magnifying glass tools that we know with a large magnifying glass you can cut through stone. But I suspect they had much more than that. They exploited free winds to move their ships, free sunshine, cut stone perhaps, to cook their meals in large stoneware. They used the free energy of the rivers to power their water mills. It's all very clean energy. They also used electricity, early forms of electricity, cables and wires and electrodes. They used that to produce the hydrogen they needed to inflate their airships long before history tells us the first airships were made. It's really quite a simple technology, airships. And, with those airships, I've seen pictures, if I trust them, those airships could hold a lot of weight. Some of them were just floating hotels. Nothing like our commercial jets. Certainly not as fast, but able to carry, move things, enormous amounts of things. So when people wonder how megaliths were moved, don't wonder anymore. Probably with airships. Not that they didn't have slaves. You can't move 100-ton blocks of stone. Slaves, it's just not practical. I mentioned the stone cookware. That's what I see when I enter churches and see large baptismal fonts, multiple sometimes, in a single church. Do you really need more than one baptismal font in a church? Yes, you do if the church is meant to feed hundreds of people. It's a kitchen for hundreds of people. You need more than one pot. I also mentioned that slaves, they had slaves. Excuse me. Again, I will disagree with conventional history, which claims that Europeans and others, of course, much less discussed, other ethnic groups, abducted simple people, native peoples from Europe, from Africa, and enslaved them. That is the conventional history we're given. Well, I don't think that's so easy. Abducting slaves and then giving them work. Those slaves know how to survive. They have pride. They'll flee at the first possibility, live off the land, they know. So I think there must be an alternative explanation, and we do know that many, many cities around the world have secret tunnels, underground complexes. Oh, by the way, this is related to free energy, of course. Slaves are very much free energy. But imagine forcing humans into these underground complexes. Have you ever wondered about those keys that the Vatican uses as its symbol, that the Pope has as its two, St. Peter, two keys crossed? What were they for? Underground complexes. There is one under Rome. There are more than we know. I think others have exposed some of them online in videos. But imagine raising humans underground for more than one generation, more than one generation. The second generation would know nothing, would be completely helpless. Would know nothing about how to live above ground, would be completely dependent on their masters for food, for life, and therefore would be easily managed. They would willingly work wherever, at whatever, for the food they need to survive. I've done quite a job on exposing probably the truth about how the Great Walls of China were built. I did call them the Great Walls, plural. They are a series of walls with huge, sometimes 100-kilometer plus spaces between them. This is not a wall that could stop nomads riding on goats, camels and horses, who want to come south and conquer a supposedly superior, more advanced civilization, the Han empires, the Ming, so on. No, that wouldn't work without, it wouldn't work as a wall. So those walls, what purpose did they serve? Really, it's a puzzle. It only makes sense if we're dealing with insane rulers who really didn't care how they used their slave labor. Under Beijing, by the way, there is an enormous secret city. I've read different accounts claiming it can hold over 1 million, up to 6 million people, magic 6 million number. And outside, to the west of Beijing, is an even larger underground complex. That is where slaves were farmed, and that is where the aristocrats, those damned Europeans, not my ancestors, where they produced enough slaves to help build absolutely useless Great Walls of China. And slaves died along the way, were buried in those walls, some of them. Others maybe eaten. And along the way, they were fed, probably with meat, as the countryside was raped. Raped of its wildlife. And even if they knew how to feed themselves, those slaves wouldn't flee, not from that work site. Most of the Great Walls of China are built through semi-desert and difficult terrain. Right, more in a moment.
Will be my appetite as I crawl a cracked and broken town. If we make it, we can all sit back and laugh. But I fear tomorrow I'll be crying. Yes, I fear tomorrow I'll be crying. Yes, I fear tomorrow I'll be crying.
I've been using the X39 LifeWave patches every day since December 2023. The X39 patches help with pain relief and my strength and stamina. Proper use of the X39 has been proven to significantly increase human GHKCU copper peptides in the body. Increasing the human production of copper peptides has been proven to increase healthy stem cell activity. Wear the X39 for 12 hours a day, giving yourself a 12-hour break before applying a new patch. Do this for 6 to 12 months. Continue daily use to maintain your health benefits and get regular checkups with your healthcare provider to track any internal progress you may not have noticed. It's quite extraordinary to be able to use the same technology used by U.S. Navy SEALs. The SEALs rely on LifeWave patches to accomplish their missions. Get started with the X39 at thelibertyman.com. If you don't have internet access, just call John Moore at 314-965-3007. That's 314-965-3007.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network. Because you can handle the truth.